For typical older technologies, 2G and 3G is not as efficient from a resource perspective on these radio access networks like 4G and 5G is. So we're working very closely with our infrastructure partners to get to that migration of switching of 2G and 3G. We've got 2 virtualized radio access networks on both of these infrastructure players with like for like parity, and we are able to give our customers the best of both.
Okay.
So the purpose of our brand campaign that we went out with on SA's best network is just that.
Okay.
I think the challenge comes in where we should have maybe said on SA's best networks. So we will definitely be partaking in any future auctions should it arise. If you look at our spectrum holdings compared to the bigger operators, we definitely have way less than what they have.
Welcome to the latest edition of ITWeb TV. My name is Admire Moyo. Today we are joined by CTO Schalk Visser. He's going to be telling us about everything about the CLC network. We understand that CLC now have a virtual radio network, so he's going to be telling us all about what this means and all the advantages of their strategy. CLC is undergoing a transformation in regards to its network. So let's hear from the man himself. Welcome to ITWeb TV, Schalk.
Thanks for having me, Maya. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Schalk. Just to start with, just to know, we understand we have been talking before this session that you have been there since, I think, 2012 when Alan Craig was still the CEO. If you can just tell us about the journey, about the transformation of CLC network ever since you were appointed into this position.
Thanks. Joined CLC in 2012, July 2012. Actually wasn't in the position since then. Only started in the position in 2018, 2017. The journey from then to now has been quite a interesting one, if I can put it that way. As we've said in the press and in the news previously, we were always in this business model of trying to catch up with the bigger players in terms of investment, rolling out network and so on. So to give you some context in terms of the size of our network at the time, when we started the implementation of this new business model, we were sitting at around 5,500 sites, where the competitors were sitting at around, say, 12,000 sites each. Half of our sites had LTE on it, where the competitors had higher percentage of sites sitting on that technology. So for us to catch up, it was just not a possible or a sustainable model to continue with. So in the years from 2012, it was always a recapitalization after recapitalization with the big intent to get funding into the business to fund that rollout. And as you can imagine, you will not be able to get the amount of money to catch up with these guys. We did some calculations at its stage to look at what it will catch up, what it will cost us to catch up. If we, let's say, theoretically assume they don't invest, we then invest 40 billion rand, and then we will be at parity if we're lucky. So it was just not a sustainable business model, and therefore we went on to the new business model that we implemented.
So what happened to those sites that you had? You said how many, by the way?
5,500.
Yes. So what happened to those?
So a big proportion of them were co-locations with either a Vodacom or an MTN on their physical infrastructure already. A lot of them were part of TowerCo deals that we had. So for instance, with ATC, a big proportion of our sites was on ATC, American Tower Company. And then we had a few sites that we had our own masts and so on. But those, when we triggered this business model change, we went out an RFP, we sold those sites off to TowerCos, and then we were able to deconstruct the ones that we couldn't sell and remove the equipment from all other 5,500 sites.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Schalk. Another question that I have for you is the advertising board. I'm sure you know the MTN recently said CLC can't really claim to have like the best network because they are basically using Vodacom and MTN network. How do you respond to that?
I think for us, it's part of our commitment to our customers. If you look at what we're putting in the hands of the customer today, and maybe I can give you a little bit of context in terms of once we've implemented, or with us now having implemented this model, what we are actually giving in the hands of the customer. So if you think about it today, you've got MTN with around, say, 13,500 sites, more or less. Vodacom is sitting at around 15,000 sites. We've got two virtualized radio access networks on both of these infrastructure players with like for like parity, and we are able to give our customers the best of both.
Okay.
So the purpose of our brand campaign that we went out with on SA's best network is just that.
Okay.
I think the challenge comes in where we should have maybe said on SA's best networks.
Oh yeah.
So so that's where we are on that.
Awesome. And what are the biggest advantages of having this virtualized radio network?
I think the biggest advantage for Cell C is the low capex model that comes with it. If you think about it from an investor perspective, the likes of Vodacom and MTN each invest 10 billion rand a year at least. A lot of that goes into their radio access networks, having to upgrade to support future technologies like 5G and so on, capacity, sites that needs to be built still. As CLC, as part of the business model that we've implemented, we get access to those sites as and when they come up. So the biggest benefit that we have is that we have a reduced capex spend. We changed it into an OPEX spend based on the roaming agreements that we have in place with both Vodacom and MTN. And we can now focus our CapEx and our investment into our core and our billing systems so that we can differentiate to customers and the service that we provide, not so much on the speed I offer you, but what are the actual service that I'm selling to you.
Awesome. Speaking of 5G, Schalk, we recently was at CLC where your CEO, George, was presenting. And he said 5G is coming soon. So maybe today, since you are here, you are going to actually let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah. The last when should we expect 5G from CLC?
So like I said, we've got the two virtual radio access networks in place with both. In terms of the Vodacom side of the implementation, all 14,500 sites are live with the modeling technology, and about 3,500 of them has got 5G active. We have not migrated any customers yet to that Vodacom active or to the Vodacom mock-in arrangement. So there's 3,500 sites live and ready, but we're going to start migrating customers there now. The balance of the arrangement is sitting on the MTN side, where there's around, say, 14,000 sites. They also have around 3,000 sites 5G, of which 100 has made live in the last month. And there's a plan that we're working on together with them now to activate the balance of them in the coming months.
And speaking of these roaming agreements, I understand you guys recently made new deals with Vodacom and MTN. Can you give us more details on what does that mean and maybe the nitty-gritties of these arrangements?
I think the biggest difference is on the commercial side, on the MTN side. The technical implementation of what we had with MTN before versus what we have with MTN now is there's two angles to it. The one is the technical side and the one is the commercial side. The commercial side is there was a proper review of the commercial construct of the agreement, that we are now in a much better position, and I'm sure George will have shared that with you. The second part of it is on the technical side, where we didn't have parity of service, which means a CLC customer connecting on the MTN network will not get the same level of service as a MTN customer. So all of that is now been renegotiated to have a like-for-like parity of service on the MTN side. The change on the Vodacom side is where we traditionally had let's call it traditional roaming agreement. So when you go overseas, you connect to the roaming network there, you will see it's like a AT&T wireless. It showed that is traditional roaming. When you connect it to the Vodacom network in South Africa as a CLC customer, it would show you Vodacom. Then you know you're on traditional roaming.
Okay.
With a mock-in arrangement, it's a much seamless and a much better customer experience where the customer seamlessly move between the networks and sites. between the sites specifically and have access to 4G and 5G services. So the one is very much a technical and commercial tweak on the agreement that was in place with MTN, and on the Vodacom agreement, we've refreshed it to be aligned with the latest technology.
Awesome. I understand MOCON means multi-operator core network. If you can maybe just enlighten me, like how does this technology actually work?
Okay, so the basic of what it is, and I think I've tried to explain it in the past sometime, because it's basically just the virtualization of the radio access network. Okay. The best way to describe that is if you think about it, the network as a tree. So a tree has got leaves, it's got twigs, it's got branches, it's got a big stem, everything. The only thing that we've done from an MNO perspective is that we went and we virtualized the leaves of the tree. The rest of the infrastructure as an MNO, our core transmission, our core network, our billing systems, all of that, we still have in play. The only difference is that we've got a virtualized radio access network. Okay. The benefit of that is that we've got now two that's overlaying.
Is it like a global trend?
What you typically see globally is that they would complement a physical infrastructure with a roaming arrangement in areas where there's not sufficient coverage. So a good example of that is what Telkom is doing. So Telkom has got 7.5 of their own sites, 7,500 of their own sites. And then they also have a MOCON arrangement with MTN and Vodacom, but not in the metro areas as such, because they've got their own infrastructure. The difference is they still need to invest in that 7,500 sites to keep up with technology, push out generators if there's power outages or anything like that. So there's a running cost and investment for that infrastructure, and then they're out. That's what you typically see globally. Smaller operators, challenger networks, they go that way where they try and invest. But with the rating change in technology like 4G, 5G, and 6G and these things, the CapEx requirement is exponential. So to keep up and be sustainable, it's very difficult. So that's why we went back and we said, let's relook this thing completely and look at a total virtualized radio access network. And the benefit that we have is that we actually have got access to both of the biggest infrastructure players in South Africa.
And who actually offers that? Like, are these your Nokias, your Huawei's, Ericsson's?
It's your OEMs. So our core is still a Huawei core, but if you look at the radio infrastructure on both MTN and the Vodacom side, it's typically a ZTE, Nokia, Huawei, and so on.
So is it a once-off thing that you just buy from them, or you use it licensed? Or?
There's licenses involved, there's capacity requirements involved, and so on, but those are all catered for and constructed within the commercial arrangements that we have in place with our infrastructure partners.
Great stuff. Just moving away from the network, Schalk, we also have got talk about eSIM cards. I recently read somewhere that, there's a lot of plastic waste as a result of the plastic SIM cards that we have. What strategy does Celsi has in regards to rolling out eSIMs?
It's definitely one of our key drivers in terms of putting it in the hands of the customer. The big challenge you sit with, though, is that the device in the hands of the customer, most of the devices still not support eSIM capability. Your high-end devices typically supports that. So in those spaces, like for me as example, I've got 2 SIMs in my phone, both of them are eSIM. I don't have a physical SIM anymore. Okay. It's just it's the seamlessness of using it and so on. It's much easier, it's more convenient. All of that, it ticks all the right boxes. The challenge is and remain the devices that's in the network. And that's causing it that you don't have a big portion of your base that can support an eSIM device or eSIM.
Great stuff. Maybe also looking to emerging technologies like your artificial intelligence. As CTO, are you also harnessing these emerging technologies?
Yes, no, definitely for sure. I think as a business, it's definitely something that we're doing. We were actually chatting this week in our executive catch-up just in general. And it's such a difficult thing to pin on one individual. It's not necessarily something you want to pin on the chief technology officer needs to run with it or the chief data officer needs to run with it. It's actually a company business change that needs to be required. So there's a lot of business change involved in that. So if I look at the way that we've approached it, we split it into 2 let's say, areas of focus. Let's say an internal focus and an external focus. Internal focus meaning what is the tools and the capabilities that we deploy within the company to make our employees more efficient. So, for instance, one of the things that we are rolling out quite aggressively is Copilot as part of the Microsoft suite. Just the seamlessness and efficiency that it introduced into the day-to-day operations makes a huge difference. The second part that we built into is to say then what are the customer-facing channels that we want to leverage this technology in. And there we look at things like in the call centers, how do we leverage AI in terms of natural language processing to be more efficient in the way that we service our customer, still to have a human in the middle, because these things still sometimes go on their own tangents. You need to make sure that you have a handle on it. So yeah, we've split it into two, but also a lot more distributed and federated into the business so that the business drives it and technology enables them.
Thanks so much, Schalk. Now moving on to the sunsetting of 2G and 3G networks in South Africa. I think the deadline was December 2027. Yes. Do you think this deadline is feasible, and what is CLC doing prior to this sunsetting?
Yeah, as CLC, we've actually been working quite vigorously on this. It is as important for us as it is to our infrastructure partners. As you can imagine, your typical older technologies, 2G and 3G, is not as efficient from a resource perspective on these radio access networks like 4G and 5G is. So we're working very closely with our infrastructure partners to get to that migration of switching of 2G and 3G. However, in recent press release showed that the date of December 27 is also now up for negotiation in terms of work that's being done with ICASA and the mobile operators. But that's not stopping us from getting to a point where we can say we're going to switch off 2G and 3G. The challenge is that a big portion of your devices on the network still doesn't support 4G and 5G or VoLTE for that matter. Because if you switch off the 3G layer, there's no voice service. 2G and 3G layer, there's no voice service if you don't have a VoLTE capable device. Okay. So that's probably the biggest hindrance. But the industry or the government has done a lot already to support the industry in that, in terms of reducing the ad valorem tax to bring in these devices more easily. But there's a lot more that needs to be done to be able to put the right device into the hands of a customer so that we are in a position to switch off those legacy technologies.
And what are the, maybe besides the voice, what are still some of the other uses of these legacy technologies?
If you think about it, all the like SMS, USSD transactions, voice, all of it goes over the 2G and 3G circuit switch networks. If it's a VoLTE capable device, those services then migrate over to the LTE network.
Okay. Awesome. And maybe also looking at the regulatory side of things, I'm sure there's another spectrum auction that maybe ICASA will still be looking to have more spectrum. Should they be like another spectrum auction?
Yeah, I think spectrum is how they say it, it's a critical resource as part of any MNO business model. Because if you think about it, spectrum is the liquid that allows you to carry the megabytes from that mobile device into the core network. So the spectrum allocation, we will definitely be partaking in any future auctions should it arise. If you look at our spectrum holdings compared to the bigger operators, we definitely have way less than what they have. But yeah, that's an ongoing engagement with us and the regulator. So if that and when that comes up, CLC will definitely be partaking.
Great stuff. Lastly, Schalk, what do you want maybe to just tell your customers in regards to what they can expect maybe from a network point of view, or even maybe people would want to hear about data prices going down, maybe you've got something in store for them. What would you want to say as a parting shot to your customers?
I think as you say, as a parting shot, give us a try. I know Celsi, like I said to you, I've been there since 2012. I've seen a lot of change in the business, number one, as well as within technology in terms of what we've done with the network. We've gone through a lot of ups and downs in terms of trying to have a network whilst roaming, trying to move or trying to sort out the seamlessness of that customer experience. We've never been able to solve that until now. We are now in probably the best position as LC from a network perspective, having access to the two best networks in the country and being able to provide that to our customers at the best price. So yeah, give us a try. You've got nothing to lose, and if you have an issue, like I said to your students earlier, then you know who to contact. Well, but give us a try.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Schalk. Just came whilst we were talking that I know you are the home of MVNOs as well. Like, as the CTO of CLC, what is your biggest role, like, to ensure that you continue onboarding these MVNOs to CLC?
I think for us, from an MVNO perspective, is really our ability to really partner. I think what sometimes happen in these environments is, as an MNO, you think you know telecoms, and you've got an MVNO partner that comes in, and you're not willing to listen to what they're looking for, what they need, and so on. So I think that's probably our biggest strength as an enabler for MVNOs, or the biggest enabler for MVNOs in South Africa, is our ability to partner and partner deeply with these guys. So yeah, for those guys as well, give us a try. We definitely have a track record to show that we do make a success of it, and the only way to do that is to work very, very closely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Schalk, for coming to our studio. I really appreciate you taking time to come here. Thank you so much for watching this episode of ITWeb TV. We're still talking today with Schalk Visser, who is the CTO of CLC. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and thank you so much for watching.